Welcome back. All right, rare occasion where I'm wearing the same team's jersey for back-to-back videos, but Winnipeg Jets have earned it. The Winnipeg Jets are off to a 14-1 start. They become the first team in NHL history to win 14 of their first 15 games. And the first thing I want to say is, I'm not going to take anything away from this. This has been an absolutely amazing run by them. So there's not going to be a lot of but, and however kind of discussion. They're 8-1 at home and they're 6-0 on the road. So it doesn't really matter where they're playing. And in the last two games, if I was going to nitpick a little bit, it would be that they've let down in the third period. Tonight, this afternoon, against the Dallas Stars, it was understandable. They were up by 4. Against Colorado, maybe a little bit more troubling in that they were only ahead by 1, but Hellebuck, he locked it down and got it done. So I wanted to look at their upcoming schedule first, because the question that's going to get asked is, so how far can this go? And if they come out of this next, say, how many do they have left this month? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So they've got 9 more games left this month. If they win 6 of them, they've proven that they're a contender to, I think, everybody. So it starts on Tuesday in New York against the Rangers. That is going to be a very difficult matchup. Then on Thursday, they're in Tampa. We know how tough Tampa can be at home. And then on Saturday, so a week from tonight, they will be in Florida. Panthers, of course, one of the hottest teams in the league as well. And it's the start of a home and home, as on Tuesday they come home and play against Florida again. So the next 4 games are going to tell us a lot about where the Winnipeg Jets actually are in relation to some of the best teams in the league. And then after coming home to play against Florida, they go right back out on the road. They play in Pittsburgh on Friday the 22nd. Then on the next night, the 23rd, they're in Nashville. So that's going to be tough. And then they're in Minnesota on Monday the 25th. They are in LA on Wednesday the 27th. And then they're in Vegas on the 29th, a Friday. So, yeah, a lot of road games there. This is going to be tough. Again, if they can win 6 out of the next 9, they're in pretty good shape. But they're against some real contenders here. Again, the defending Stanley Cup champions, the 2020 and 2021 Stanley Cup champions, the home of Igor Shesterkin, one who is seen as, potentially a player who could lead them to a cup. Even the ones that are outside the playoffs, the only 2 outside the playoffs that they're going to play are Pittsburgh and Nashville. And both of them are capable of winning games. They're absolutely capable, and I think they've both underachieved to this point. So the upcoming schedule is daunting. But let's talk about their stats. Scheifele leads the way in 15 games, 7 goals, 12 assists, 19 points. He's tied for that mark with Connor. 15 games, 9 goals, 10 assists, 19 points. One thing that really stands out with Winnipeg is their depth. There is no one player that you can look at and say, if we shut him down, we've got a great chance of beating them. Ehlers, 15 games, 9 goals, 9 assists, 18 points. Morrissey, 15 games, 2 goals, 14 assists for 16 points. Pionk, 15 games, 3 goals, 11 assists for 14 points. Velarde, 15 games, 6 goals, 7 assists, 13 points. Perfetti, 15 games, 4 goals, 9 assists for 13 points. Niederreiter, 15 games, 7 goals, 5 assists, 12 points. Lowry, 15 games, 2 goals, 9 assists, 11 points. Nemestikov, 15 games, 4 goals, 7 assists, 11 points. And Appleton, 15 games, 4 goals, 6 assists, 10 points. I don't think they're going to keep scoring at this rate. It's going to be difficult for them to do it. But, Winnipeg has done this through about 20% of the season so far. It is absolutely remarkable to watch them work. Connor Hellebuck is on his way to another Vezina if this continues. He's 11-1. 935 save percentage, 3 shutouts. And his quality starts numbers, 75% of the time he's in net, he gives them a save percentage of 900 or higher. So he gives them a chance to win every night. Eric Comrie's 3-0, 914 save percentage, no shutouts, but when Comrie's been in net, he's been good enough. Again, they haven't lost with Comrie in net either. So their goals for per game sits at 4.47. Is that sustainable? Probably not. Teams are not expected to stay at around 4.5 goals per game. Usually it's under 4 by the end of the season. But again, they got off to this great start. They're now 13 games above 500. If they play 500 hockey from here, that's a 95-point season. So they don't even have to play well from here, just 1 up, 1 down, and they're a 95-point team. If they're 5 games above 500 the rest of the way, 100 points. right? And that'd be considered somewhat disappointing because of the start they've had. So 4.47 goals scored per game. That's probably going to come down a bit, especially with the murderer's row they have coming up. And then goals against per game, 2.07. It's low. Is it sustainable? Probably not. The 935 save percentage by Hellebuck may very well be sustainable because it's Connor Hellebuck. We know how good he can be. That's why it was so alarming when you saw Colorado just take apart the Jets and Hellebuck's game in the first round last year. So we'll see how things go this year. Their power play clicking at 41.9%, much like their goals for per game. That's going to come down. They're not going to stay at that number. Their penalty kill at 82.4%. That is absolutely sustainable. So their shots, they're getting 31.3 shots per game. They're allowing an even 29 shots against per game. So they're controlling the game. They're playing really well. They're getting scoring from every line. Almost every player is getting the puck into the net. And when they're leading after the first, they're automatic. They're 7-0. If they're leading after the second, also automatic. They're 10-0 when they're leading after the second period. If they're trailing after the first, they're 3-1. If they're trailing after the second, mediocre 1-1. But that's only 2 out of 15 games, telling you they do not trail going to the third period often. But again, these upcoming games are going to be a good test for them. There are some teams on this list that are pretty good at getting that first goal, pretty good at protecting leads, and pretty good at home. So with all these games on the road and just such a tough schedule, it is going to be a proving ground for the Jets. One thing that has helped Winnipeg, injuries. Ville Heinola, and that's it. Right now, that is the only injury showing for the Winnipeg Jets. There's some luck in staying healthy, but so far the Winnipeg Jets have stayed healthy this season. You look at all these top scorers, all of them have appeared in every single game. That means you haven't had to worry about who's going to go into the lineup for this guy who's out. This guy's out, now we're going to have to do line shuffling. They haven't had that problem. So getting off to a really fast start, being able to keep your lines together, knowing who's going to be where and when and all that, there really are a lot of factors that are helping the Winnipeg Jets so far this season. And again, there's some good fortune to staying healthy. Ask the Colorado Avalanche and their fans about how things are going for them, where they've had the opposite, where it's been injury after injury, and it has definitely affected their record. So the wins that Winnipeg has, I want to look at the wins, who they've beaten. And so this is where if you want to find any kind of issue with the Jets, you could say, well, their schedule hasn't been against the top contending teams as much as some of the others. So their wins have been against Edmonton, who have been iffy, right? They had an overtime win over Chicago. Chicago's near the bottom of the league. Minnesota, an overtime win. We know how good Minnesota is, so that's an impressive one right there. San Jose's rebuilding. Pittsburgh's been struggling. St. Louis, a very up and down team in St. Louis. They won an overtime against Seattle. Seattle's had their struggles. Calgary, really strong start for Calgary. They're getting points in overtimes right now, but we'll see whether or not they're able to maintain a playoff position as the season rolls on. Detroit, we know Detroit's been in a rebuild for a long time. I talked about that earlier today. Columbus is in a rough position this year. And so wins against Columbus, while it's important to get those wins over Columbus, you can look at their lineup and say that's a win that you should have, right? Tampa Bay, impressive win over Tampa Bay. Not going to take anything away from that. Although we can say that Tampa Bay had a rough road trip. Winnipeg contributed to that. Utah has been tougher lately. They're currently above the playoff line. Colorado, dealing with all those injuries and everything. They lose that game 1-0. It was hard fought. I think they outplayed the Jets through large stretches of that game. And then there's today's win over Dallas. Dallas, a team that should be a contender, but now with that loss, they've lost, I believe, 3 out of 4. So some concerns around Dallas? Sure. So the only loss that Winnipeg's had is against Toronto. And ever since then, well, they've taken it out on the rest of the NHL. They didn't skip a beat. That game didn't cause them to have any other issues, which is good because there are some upcoming opponents that could definitely give them a tough night. And the fact that this team's already shown off that one loss, the only loss they've had so far this year, that they can bounce back from that. That's a huge, huge benefit to them. And so, yeah, we'll see how this season goes for the Winnipeg Jets from here. But so far, it looks pretty darn near perfect, really. Outside of that game against Toronto, it's been perfect. And then the question becomes one of, when there's that adversity and over an 82 game schedule, every team goes through it. How do you respond to it? And so we'll see. But right now, things are pretty rosy around the Jets. This schedule, the rest of November, though, is tough. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, as always, regarding the Winnipeg Jets. Do you buy what they're selling, or do you say, nope, this team is not going to be that good, and they're going to cool off? Do you think that this is sustainable? Being my question. Hit like and subscribe in the event you may not have done so already. Thank you guys so much for all your support as always. I will talk to you again soon.